I know it's called Life in Croatia, but basically life in England right now. In this episode, I want to talk about what I think about Croatian healthcare and what I think about the hospitals in Dalmatia, specifically Šibenik and Zadar. Now, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you can, like the video too, as it helps the video get out there. It helps with motivation with creating more videos, content for you guys, and can impact more people. So, without further ado, let's continue with the episode. So anyway, I want to talk about the experience that I've had, not personally with me, but my personal experience through another person, because I've been dealing with it. So I've been working for this guy. He's from the Netherlands, and he's moved to Croatia as an expat, as he loved this country, and he thought it was one of the most beautiful countries in the world. So he wanted to pack his bags, basically. Didn't really like what was happening in the West. I wanted to live his rest of his life in peace and solitude in a village in Croatia. Now, unfortunately, he had an issue with his leg, which was cellulitis. As I was seeing him more and more, I realized that the issue that he had wasn't really going away, and if anything, the situation was getting worse and worse. Very set out on getting the house done, getting the project done, because he'd sort of bought a house which was a kind of a renovation job. It needed everything changing. So he was solely very much focused on that. With his health, he kind of put that on the side because he saw his house basically as a bigger priority. But I saw something different, you know. I saw how his wife was, sat him down and told him, maybe you should prioritize your life more. Maybe you should prioritize your health more, because if something goes wrong with you with this leg, which I'm very much afraid of, then if you end up losing yourself due to a circumstance that happens, then potentially your wife will probably not live here, because the only reason that she wants to live here is because you are here. Now, if you're not here and you don't take care of your health, nothing that you're doing right now really means anything. You're doing the house up for no reason. You're just grafting all the time for no reason, you know. Unless you're here, in the end, sitting on your balcony, none of this means anything. And he took that as a big lesson. He took that as a bit of clarity and realized, actually, you're right. I need to prioritize my health. And I also said, you know, if you do care about your wife, then her number one concern is you. Her number one concern isn't the house. So if you really care for her, you need to care about yourself, because that's all she cares about. She really doesn't care if the apartments don't get done. She wants you to be okay. So anyway, throughout this talk, I had some reality checks and realized that he needs to put his health forward. Anyway, so we've pushed him to go to the hospital. He'd obviously already been to the hospital quite a few times, and they kept basically... He had a very bad experience in Zadar, which was the most localist city to where he was. And through that experience, I don't really know what happened, but he realized that he didn't want to go there again. So he ended up going to Šibenik, which was around maybe an hour away from where he is. Now again, Šibenik wasn't ideal, as our experience there was not great either. But he didn't really have many other options apart from Split, I guess, but it was just very, very far. So anyway, he went there a few times. They'd give him some drugs to take at home. They'd done an incision on his leg, previously on his foot, which was a small incision, but it turned into a massive hole in his foot and got infected and kept creating bacteria, obviously. You know, as soon as when I came with him, I basically said that they needed to take further action on this. And it wasn't just a matter of giving him some pills. It was like, let's try and find a solution here, because whatever's happening, this has been going on for like a year or so, and it's just going to end up one way. So unless we don't find a solution, I'm not here to leave unless we have a solution. They took that on board. They were saying, oh yeah, very well, you know, I know the urgency, this, that, and the other. And the doctor basically suggested that they try one more time with antibiotics, because I thought straight away that the leg basically needed to come off because of the condition of it, basically. I just didn't see how it was going to get any better. He was in excruciating pain. The size of his leg was about 4 times the size of a normal leg, and he had to cut up all his shoes to even fit his foot in there. It was crazy, you know, and always in excruciating pain when I saw him. These waves of pain that would come across him, and he wasn't able to just live a normal life. So anyway, they decided to put him on antibiotics. I found out while I was there, the nurses, there's a couple of nurses that were there, I would name and shame, but I don't really know who they are, and I don't know their names either. The nurses there, oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. Honestly, never seen anything like it. Basically, they treat you like a piece of meat. Swinging your arm around, saying, "Go, are you here again?" Things like that. It's like horrible to kind of hear, you know, they're being horrible to him. And it was confusing for me because from a country that I'm from, the UK, if you want to be a nurse, then you've got to be compassionate to people. You've got to love people, and they do, and that's why they enter that job. Now, people, I've written about this on a Facebook group, and people came back and said, you know, oh, I asked what the reason for this was, and they said, oh, they're just overworked and underpaid and stuff. I was like, that is the same reason everywhere in the world. In the UK, it's the same. Overstretched, underpaid. But you guess what? It doesn't mean that they're going to treat people badly because of that. They might be internally annoyed about that, but they're not going to take it out on the patient. Now, I'm not saying there's like, you know, there's potentially bad nurses in UK as well, but from my experience, they're all kind and nice, positive and helpful in every kind of way. So to see this, where 70%, from what I saw, of nurses were kind of rude, they were trying to shove you out the room, they were talking back to the doctor. I was amazed about this. You know, the doctor was saying, right, we need to put him on another test for virology or whatever to check the bacteria. And they were like, oh, we've done that before. And it's like, one, why are you talking back to the doctor? If the doctor says something, then just do it. And he's like, well, yeah, but we need to do it again. And then they kind of grumble and kind of do it. And yeah, I just saw them literally throwing his body parts around like a piece of meat, like gripping him, moving him, not saying like, oh, can you please lift your hand or something? You know, it's all very sort of like rough and aggressive. Almost like, why are you here? Like, why have you come to this place? And I was just shocked, honestly shocked. The state of the hospital in general, I don't think it has been renovated since, you know, Yugoslav communist times. Honestly, it just looks the same. And what I can say about the doctors is, from what I experienced from the doctors, they were nice people. They were professional in a way. And for the experience that I had with the doctors, I can't really say anything negative. But yeah, the nurses were just another thing, you know, another level. And I just couldn't understand it. Throughout this experience, you know, they obviously put him on antibiotics. Over the few days he was there, he said he wasn't even fed. Sometimes they wouldn't give him water. So he was, you know, he was struggling in that. This is an 80-year-old man that you're mistreating. Like, you can't even give him any food or drink or anything. Next thing was, they sent him home and basically said, didn't give him any more antibiotics. They basically said that a safe level of bacteria in your body is something like, I don't know if it's like something like between 10 and 0 and 10 or something. And I think they sent him home on something like 35. And I was like, he came home and I was like, so why did they send you home on like an unsafe level for a start? I was like, oh, I don't know, they just did. And they just said, you know, just lay down and lift your leg up, all this kind of thing, and just wait for it to heal. Well, I was like, well, if it's not on a safe level, isn't that just going to grow? Especially if you haven't been given more antibiotics, you know. And he hadn't had any to take home, you know. He was given nothing. So I was confused on how this bacteria was just going to disappear. A week later, well, a few days later, it's getting worse again. And I was like, we need to get like a private doctor to look at this or something, just to get their point of view, because, you know, this hospital is like, I don't know, awful. But what you kind of find is that most of the doctors, they work in the hospital and then they go to their private clinics after. So it's pretty much the same people anyway. I tried to ring several private clinics. Unfortunately, they were all full, nothing on like an emergency level where I could just say, can you please take him in? Like it's a matter of life or death, you know. Every day counts, and no one really could take him in. And I rung probably about 5 or 6 clinics, which was a bit of a nightmare, which I thought was a bit inhumane in some sort of aspects. But there you go. Anyway, he had ended up going to the hospital again. They put him on the antibiotics one more time and saw it didn't work, so they needed to operate. So in the end, they amputated his leg. And yeah, well, he's in a better place now than he was. He's not feeling pain, excruciating pain like he was before. So it's almost like he can have a new life, but he did not have a great experience in the hospital. And then there was things like when we had, you know, they didn't have like an ambulance or anyone to help take him home. So he needed to call me so I could help. And it's like, you know, this guy has only got his wife pretty much to carry him, and there's no support. You know, where's the support of someone else to kind of take him home? He hasn't got a leg, you know what I mean? Or is there any help in like making sure that the property is ready for a disabled person? No one even cares. That's up to you, isn't it? And, you know, unfortunately his property isn't disabled friendly, you know, steps and gravel and all that kind of thing. We had to make makeshift ramps. But anyway, when we finally took him home, they told him at the hospital that a few days later he needed to take his stitches out and that an ambulance would probably come and pick him up. I was like, fine. A few days passed when the ambulance had to come pick it up. He rung and they basically said, it's not their job, the hospital, it's not their job to organise an ambulance. It's like, right, okay, so whose job is it then? It's your family doctor's. Okay, so get in touch with the family doctor, and he's unable to do it. So in the end, they rung the hospital and said, well, the family doctor can't organise that either. And they said, oh, that's fairly common, you know. You just have to use your family to take you in here. And it's like, he doesn't have those people around him. Well, luckily, you know, I'm there, but I unfortunately was not available on that day. But it's like, how do you get around that then? Why don't they have these things in place? So, well, why can't someone come and visit and do it? Do you know what I mean? It's just very, very back in time. Now, for the many positives that Croatia has, this healthcare, especially in these areas, I can't talk about every area in Croatia because I haven't had experience in those areas, but I myself have had experience in both Zadar and Šibenik, and I had a bad experience in not Šibenik, but Zadar myself as well. When I had a pregnant wife, she was feeling pain in her stomach, so I took, because it was, you know, not normal pain, that she was very scared, so I took her to the emergency thing. And basically the first thing the nurse said to us was, why did you come here? It's like, what? Come here because my wife's in pain. Why else would I come here? Just that kind of rudeness. And when you're pregnant, they don't let anyone else in the room, you know. It's always just the women in the room. And even if you to give birth, the man isn't allowed to be there either, which is everything's pretty extraordinary. Everything's pretty strange in that kind of aspect. I can't talk about places like Split. I can't talk about places like Zagreb. I imagine that the hospital service there is a lot better. I imagine that Zagreb is pretty up to date with Europe. I imagine so, but anyone in the comments can tell me whether that's correct or whether it's not correct. And basically, I just wanted to share this experience because it's quite scary in a way, because I know that if at any point I need the hospital, I can't rely on either Zadar or Šibenik really, because from what I've seen, I don't trust them. So I've got to try and find a way to rely on another hospital, for instance, potentially driving to Zagreb or Split in order to get anything done if any of my family needs it, which isn't the most comforting sign, unfortunately. So yeah, this is just an experience that I'm sharing with you. You must take into consideration for where you decide to live in Croatia, whether you live in Croatia now already, and you can share your experiences, good or bad. I understand that a lot of people potentially have good experiences, but I just want to hear what you guys have to say. So if you can share those experiences with me, that would be great. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.